Make DBS Radio the better sounding radio in Dominica. Keep on listening.
One bright morning when my work is over.
Good afternoon, Dominica, and welcome to this special edition of Power Talk. I am your host, Ayola George, Public Relations Officer at Dominica Electricity Services, Domlec. Power Talk is Domlec's weekly radio program, which we normally air at 12 noon each Monday on DBS and on Kyrie FM. But today, we're here because we recognize that we certainly need more than 15 minutes, which is our usual time, to discuss a matter that you, the Dominican public, have been very concerned and very vocal about, and one that's really of national significance. And of course, that is the status of Domlec's generation capacity. So load shedding, outages, generators, hydro, diesel, these are some of the key words that, currently come to mind, are on the forefront of the minds of the public. And the public has questions and they deserve answers. So we're here to do just that, to give you some answers to the questions that you may have. And joining me on the program today are two gentlemen who have first-hand knowledge of the matter, who know why it's happening, how it's being dealt with, and all the other pertinent questions that you may have. They know because they are key members of the team that's working to deal with some of these issues. So I want to welcome to the program Daryl Dalrymple, whose substantive post is manager of ET&D at Domlec. ET&D is short for Engineering, Transmission and Distribution, and who also since October of last year has been serving as the company's restoration coordinator. We also have Mr. Dave Stamp, who is also here, and he is the company's generation manager. Welcome, gentlemen.
Yeah, thank you, Ayola, for having us here this afternoon.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Iona, and special thanks to our listeners. Good afternoon.
Okay, Daryl, I will start with you. Can the gentleman at DBS indicate if you can hear Dave? Okay, because I don't see a light on his mic. All right, wonderful. Thank you. Okay, Daryl, I'll start with you. So from last week, we've had to publish to the public notices advising of load shedding or load management in various communities around the island. This has also been extended to this week. If you've been on our Facebook page, for sure you would see the comments from our customers, from members of the public. And if you just have a conversation with anybody here, this is something that they're concerned about, these service interruptions across the island. Can you help us understand what is load shedding or capacity management, as we probably prefer to say, and why is it required at this time?
Okay, yes, Ayola, and again, good afternoon to our listeners, and I hope that as we share this information with you, you will appreciate the efforts of Domlec to manage the system as we have been experiencing the challenges that we have experienced from the beginning of this month. Load shedding, really, it's an activity that a power company would engage in to manage the demand on the system. And when I speak to the demand, I will just use the term again, load. And the load really on a network, on a system, speaks to the mics that we're using now, the air conditioned units, the lights that you use, your refrigerator, your hot water bath. All of that constitutes the load or the demand on the system. And when your generating capacity cannot supply that demand or meet that demand on the system, some action has to be taken to reduce that demand, that load on the system. And so that is where you will undertake just reducing load on the system by carrying out various switchings and taking customers off the system.
Okay.
So that's basically what it is. That's
okay.
what it is.
Thank you for the explanation. So this is happening now. But we've had some experience last year with a similar situation. So can you give us some context as to what happened then and how Domlec managed to bring this under control at that time?
Okay, there are some natural phenomena that occurred last year that I will speak to. The first one is, we know last year was a very, very hot year. In fact, I think the records show that in 172 years, we have had the highest temperatures recorded in somewhere in September. The generators we have, most of them, in fact, close to about 90% of our generators are thermal units or diesel generators. And when they operate, they get hot. And because of these elevated ambient temperatures, that affected those units. Those units could not have generated at their full capacity. And so they had to be derated, or we had to run them at loads lower than they could do under normal circumstances. So, and the bulk of our generation comes from diesel generation. So, that affected the output of these units and what we could really generate from those units. In addition to that, we had some inclement weather that affected the hydro. And even before I go there, these temperatures affected the hydro from the standpoint of the freshwater lake. It was a very dry year, and we really didn't have much rain during the periods that we were experiencing that load shedding. So the dry period brought about a very, very low rainfall, and that affected the freshwater lake. That's the main source of our hydro generation. The lake level dropped so bad that we had to curtail generation from that hydro significantly. In addition to that, we had the inclement weather. Parts of our the penstock, the hydro pipes, the pipes that bring water to the New Trafalgar plant, a tree fell, broke the pipe, and a piece of wood got into the pipe and affected one unit. In fact, that unit its capacity was reduced by about 50%. And so again, that was a contributing factor. In addition to that, we have a project that was in progress. That's the well. We call it the Padu well. It's a small intake where water from the freshwater lake, from the falls. We harness some of that water, and it gets into a tank, and that is used to generate electricity from the Padu plant. And because we didn't have that, that too affected the output from the hydro and the overall output or capacity of Domlec. We had a section of the pipe, 2 lanes, close to about 100 feet of pipe, got washed away by a slide in the Trafalgar area. And it took about a month and a week to have that replaced. So that affected the entire output from New Trafalgar, in addition to the limited water that we had coming from the well for Padu. So these really affected our ability to meet the demand on the system, because we were in a capacity shortage situation.
Okay, thank you so much. Now, coming out of this period, what are some of the plans that the company has implemented to improve on the generation capacity?
Okay, we last year, about the December of last year, we commenced a rigorous maintenance program, and most of the parts, or almost all of the major components that are required to do the maintenance on the diesel units were ordered. I will just speak to the challenges that we had with that to date, because the supply chain issues that's been experienced all around the world now has contributed to very late delivery of those spares, in spite of promises from the suppliers that we would get them by a certain time. But the supply chain issues that's affecting delivery of those parts. We also looked at the rental units. We brought in 3 megawatts of rental units. In fact, it's 4, but 1 megawatt is as a standby. So we brought that in to supplement generation, and these were installed at Fonkole. There is a project that we pursued from the American Canadian School of Medicine. We call it AXOM. That unit is a 1 megawatt unit. We worked with the school, and we had that unit online. In fact, right now it's online. So, in addition to the repairs that we undertook at the hydro plant, in addition to getting the spares to do the maintenance work, we looked at those projects. Presently, we are in the process of getting the 4.8 megawatt installed. They will speak to that, and we are also looking at bringing in an additional 3.5 megawatts of medium speed generation somewhere early next year. Okay. In terms of managing the demand on the system, there is what Domlec has engaged very large customers in. It's called an interruptible agreement, whereby we call large customers off the system. So in so doing, the system, we free up the system, so to speak, in local parlance, so that we can serve other customers. So in total, we have estimated that we can get about 1.2 to 1.4 megawatts off the system during capacity shortage periods, so that we can feed other customers, keep other customers on.
Okay. Thank you so much for that information. So essentially, since last year when we did have load shed capacity management and experienced the issues with the hydro plant and so forth, we have put some things in place in terms of increasing capacity, renting units and so forth. Would you say that these projects, how have these plans progressed as projected? So you've said things that you've put in place. How have they progressed to date? The
major spares we need, or the major parts we need for the major overhauls, that hasn't progressed too smoothly, as I mentioned earlier on. The supply chain issues that we have been experiencing it has dampened the pace at which we wanted to get all our maintenance done. We had last year Fonkole number 10 unit, and earlier this year the Fonkole number 11 unit. Those were completed. In addition to some maintenance that we had to do on the New Trafalgar number 1 and New Trafalgar number 2 units. These were completed, but the plans, as it relates to the major maintenance, it hasn't gone as smoothly as we expected that it would have gone. The AXOM project, as I said, that one is online. We got that unit going this week, so that additional 1 megawatt, it's available.
Okay.
The rental units, we are kind of disappointed in the reliability of those units. We have been having some challenges with those units, and the full capacity that we expected consistently is not there. But right now we are moving to addressing the shortcomings of those units. Agreco personnel, they are presently engaging a supplier for some of the parts that's required to have those units back to full capacity, and that should be done shortly.
Okay, thank you. So we're almost halfway into our hour, and we've talked a lot, and everything mentioned is quite important, of course, but I know many persons listening have one thing at the top of their mind, and they really want to know how long are they going to be expecting that these service interruptions are going to be taking place. So can you speak to that?
Yes, we are doing our best to ensure that the units that are unavailable, that's contributing to the load shedding, that they are brought back online. Presently, there are 2 units at Sugarloaf. We should have one back by tomorrow or Thursday. There is one other unit. We have some a little deeper dive to do before we can determine exactly what's when it will be back. There will be some intermittent load shedding from time to time, but we are really doing our best to ensure that by the time we have the 4.8 megawatts set completed, that will be in a much better position in terms of capacity to meet the demand on the system.
All right, thank you very much. So now we take it over to you, Dave. We've been waiting patiently to have a word or two. You're generation manager. So as generation manager, you're presently part of the team working on the installation of the 4.8 megawatt set, which was leased from the government. Can you give us an idea on how that project is coming along?
Yes, thank you, Iola. That project, as indicated earlier by Daryl, is a very critical project. It's a critical part of that scope of work and the activities that we have in order to take us out of this capacity management situation. Now that project has started, and as you've mentioned, the project is a lease capacity leased to us by the government of Dominica. That's a very important point. So it's overall about 30% completed, and let me just give you a little more information on that project. It's a 4.8 megawatt capacity. Now 4.8 megawatt in the scheme of things is very critical, and will go a long way in increasing our capacity and taking us out of the capacity shortfall situation. So the project basically is set up in three key packages. So one is the equipment package, equipment coming from overseas, and the key equipment is three 1.6 megawatt high-speed diesel units, and with associated equipment, cooling systems, exhaust systems, high voltage systems, etc. Then there is the building and construction package, civil works package. Now these generators are not the type that can be installed outdoor, so we have to house them in a power station generating plant kind of facility. So that is being done in association with a lot of civil works and infrastructure development on the facility that we have selected for this unit. And then we have to, because of the capacity, additional fuel systems have to be installed. So there's a fuel system package that has to be set in. So as indicated, we're about 30% complete, and we are moving along as per schedule. We are, based on our estimation and review of our last schedule and Gantt charts, we are on track for an end of October delivery. And as Daryl indicate, is one of the key linchpins, one of the key aspects of us being the capacity management. So this is a very critical project, and we have a lot of resources in this project. We have a whole project team, a company-wide project team consisting of the technical side and also the financial and other key management aspects. So it's a big focus project for the company.
Okay, thank you. You've given us quite a bit of information on what we're dealing with, especially as it relates to this 4.8 megawatt generation. But there is a particular topic that I think we need to also bring to the fore, which again, I think it's something that persons in the public really want to know more about, maybe get an explanation of, because they may have a misconception or maybe not adequately informed, and that is our hydro system, right?
Yes.
Because you'll hear people say, but it's raining. it's raining. We have 365 rivers. We have all this water in Dominica, a land of 365 rivers. Why do we keep saying as Domlec that, the hydro is not at capacity or is not working as it is supposed to? So give us some information about hydro. I mean, first start off, with a little bit of an explanation of where it's located and how it's set up, and expand on that to tell us how it contributes to generation capacity, and what is the current status given the environmental weather factors and so forth. And Daryl, you can also chime in on this.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, I agree with you. That's a very, very good point. It's a very good question. That system is very critical to Domlec and Dominica. And let me just give you some background. It is a critical part of our long-term strategic objective to transition to renewable energy. So the hydro system is renewable energy. The other parts we spoke of are diesel and the fossil fuel, and the government and Domlec, through its policies, are actually trending away from that and moving from fossil fuel energy. So that is very critical. Now the hydro comprises approximately 30%. The hydro consists of about 30% of our generation capacity, right? And the other 70% is obviously diesel. So it is very critical. Another area where the hydro system is critical is that to the extent that we can operate the hydros, that means we would operate less diesel plants. And that is critical because it plays a role in the fuel surcharge management. So this is also critical. So the more hydro that you can operate, it means it will have a positive impact of tending to our lesson to reduce your fuel surcharge. So it's a very critical system. Now, the nature of the hydro is that it is the most geographically dispersed system in our generation fleet. It stems from all the way up to the Clarks River and to the freshwater lake in the north, all the way down to the end of the river down below Trafalgar. So it's a very geographically diverse thing. And a lot of its critical components are exposed to the environment and to the weather. So we have pipelines, we have dams, etc., and units that are exposed to weather and severe weather systems. So that is a critical aspect that needs to know. Now, to answer the question about the freshwater lake, now this is the source of our hydro, and it's a very critical storage facility. Now, the capacity of that system is about, at its max, about 8.5 meters. That's the ideal depth, and that's the depth when it starts to spill. Now, currently, the hydro level the lake level is about 4 meters and falling.
3.99.
It's 3.99, so it's just below 4, which means we are below half the capacity. And based on
what would be the capacity? What is the perfect number for us?
We would like it to be above 8.
Okay, and it's what again?
It is
3.9.
below 4.
Wow.
So it's below half.
Very low.
Yeah.
Yes.
Very low. And another thing to understand about is that the lake supplies the Roseau River system. And to the extent that we utilize the lake, we tend to reduce the flow in the Roseau River. Remember, the Roseau River has other users. And also the freshwater lake is a key tourist facility.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to be careful how we manage the operation of that system and not run it dry.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to also be careful. So whenever it gets too low, we tend to curtail our hydro production in order to preserve this important natural resource, which is a tourist and ecological resource. So it is very critical how we manage that. So that is a challenge that we have. Now, many of our customers have asked, why is the lake low, and we've had rains and we've had Beryl just pass recently,
Right.
etc. But if the rain isn't falling in the right area, the right catchment areas, and even though it may fall on the rest of the island, then the inflows that are required to sustain high hydro production as we would like is just not there. So the inflows may be way below what our hydro production capabilities are. So that's what is happening right now. So that is the key why we have that challenge. So it is a very critical, but we have to manage it from a ecological, from a tourist point of view, and other users in order to ensure that balance.
Okay, thank you. I think that was a very in-depth response, and I hope it answers some of the questions that persons out there may have, because one of the things you said that struck me was the diversity of the catchment area. So, yes, rain may be, well, we don't say rainfall. It may be raining somewhere, but it might not necessarily be in the place where you need to collect that water.
Yes, yes.
For you to, have going into the system. So thank you very much for that.
It's a very diverse system. It's, as I say, it covers a big geographical area. So it depends on what's happening at that particular area at the time.
Now, as we can glean from the discussion we've been having, ET&D and generation are like two pieces of the power generation and transmission puzzle. You must work collaboratively. You work together because generation's role is to ensure that there is power, and ET&D's role is to ensure that the power gets to the customer, right? So give us a little bit of a indication as how you coordinate your efforts in terms of generation and ET&D. And that's for both of y'all, of course.
Okay, well, they have been speaking for a little while, so let's go ahead.
You can go now.
The both departments work together closely because those sometimes we say is the heart and the veins of the company. So we really have to work closely to ensure that we manage the system in such a way that not only is it beneficial to the company, to the customers, but to the company, and that's important. So, as we are in this speaking to load shedding, capacity management, what we do every morning, there are meetings between the departments.
Yes, you guys have a lot of meetings.
It's quite a bit. Every morning we have meetings between the departments. So we can look at capacity, we can look at any shortages that we may have. We take a keen look, as they was indicating, at the freshwater lake level, because we really have to manage that resource carefully, because it's not there only for Domlec, it's there for the entire country. So yes, these activities, meetings, it's a critical part of how we coordinate things between the two departments. And that will continue. In fact, even without load shedding, we have to do that. Now it's even more important that we meet and we discuss and plan units that have to be maintained, how we're going to do it, when it will be done, because we have to look at that also. The units that need to be maintained, we have to take them off so that they can be maintained. But when you take it off, you're removing capacity.
Yes.
So that has to be well planned and coordinated to ensure that the units are brought back online in the quickest possible time, but not compromising on the level of maintenance that we have to do. Okay. So that's some coordination that's taking place between us.
Well, it's important to, Daryl hinted at it earlier, that regardless of whether we have load management conditions, the best practice operation of a power utility demands that these two departments coordinate, collaborate, and certain key parameters are noted each morning, each day, and sometimes many times of the day. The lake level, the status of our units, the expected demand, and all of that. So whether it is capacity shortfall time or normal times, that activity happens, and that coordination happens between the two departments. We have to coordinate what capacity is available and how that capacity is used, taken, transmitted, and then sent to the customer. Now, as you say, in times when there is no capacity challenge, we have the ability or the privilege to dispatch the capacity that's available in such a way that it benefits the customer. So even if we're dispatching these units, we dispatch the most efficient ones first.
Okay.
The most efficient and most reliable, the one with the best fuel efficiency, so that fuel savings or that efficiency is passed on to the customer. I spoke about the hydro. If we have hydro available, we maximize the use of it. If we are without challenge, then we maximize use. All that to the benefit of the customer. So that is what we do on a regular basis, irrespective of the challenging situation.
I like that you mentioned that because I'm new. Some people may know that. I've been here less than 2 months. I'm coming on to 2 months, but I'm learning, as I go along. And something you just said struck me, which was, that you use your most efficient generators first, and I think that's something we need to really share with the public, because I think when I look at some of the comments on social media, of course I manage the company's social media page, Facebook and Instagram, you will see there's this sentiment that we're kind of doing these things on purpose, and I really want to impress on the listeners that the team, the collective Domlec team, especially ET&D and Generation, make strident efforts every day to really ensure that the electricity is brought to you. For example, ET&D sends a status report every morning, including Saturday and Sunday. So that means every day of the week we are doing things such as checking the level of the lake. So it's not a matter that we don't know what the lake level is or we're surprised. We're never surprised because we check that every day. And of course, you mentioned what was the ideal lake level for us, and we're not there, but we know each day what it is so that we can respond. So essentially what I'm saying is that, Domlec is making strident efforts to use the best approaches to help. And remember, we're also customers. We all work here, yes, but when the power goes, sometimes I don't have power, and we all go through what the customers are going, and we understand the challenges that you are facing in terms of the capacity management, and especially in this time with the weather challenges. As the PRO, I definitely will offer support to your departments as it relates to sharing the outage schedule, which I will be sharing this evening. It will be on our social media page, the full schedule for the rest of the week. We know persons have been asking for that, and we understand the importance of giving you time to plan and prepare. We really wanted to share this when we had our regular program on Monday, but we were unable to. But we will be sharing it right after the program. It will also be online, so that you can have notice to plan your week. And so hopefully next week will be much better as far as providing the customers with a schedule before the capacity management occurs. So gentlemen, is there anything that you would like to add before we conclude the program?
Okay, I just want to say thanks to the employees at ET and the operators, the system control operators, it can be overwhelming sometimes. I mean, the calls come in regularly when we are load shedding, and they try to manage those calls and still manage the system and ensure that we do not have a system that's cascading. And then we have the linemen who are always there ready to be up at night and doing the switching arrangements, etc., to conduct the load management, and sometimes that can go late into the night. And again, we have the maintenance personnel who have to try to get maintenance done within sections that has been removed for load shedding and so on, capacity management. So I must say thanks to the employees, and ask them to just be patient. We will get there. I'm sure we will, and just appeal to the public, likewise, our customers, to to bear with us. We are doing our best to ensure that we get through this period in Domlec's history in the quickest possible time.
Okay, thank you. And Dave, your
Yes.
turn.
Well, I too would like to applaud the efforts of the staff, the generation team, work assiduously and throughout the weekends, because based on our capacity situation, we have had to be scheduling maintenance and a lot of activities on the weekends, because during the week the load demand is higher. So we have had to, our staff have had to be working weekends away from their families, etc., etc. So we need to say hi, thank you, we need to pause and say thank you to the entire staff of Domlec who support the activities of the generation and ET&D department in all the ways they can, in dealing with customer issues, in working to provide us with the necessary resources, financial and otherwise, that we need to execute some of these programs that we indicate to. And we'd just like to let the public know, and thanks for the patience, but also to remind the public that it does not benefit Domlec to load shed, because we lose serious revenue on that. So it is not financially or reputationally or anyway beneficial to the public. So true. It is not something that we want to continue. We're working assiduously to get back to normalcy in terms of our capacity management. So we thank for the patience, and just like to know that.
Okay, thank you so much, gentlemen. But there is something that I do want to ask. Seeing as we have a bit of time before I go through the schedule that is going to be out for this week, on our social media pages, sometimes people ask several questions as to how communities are selected. I don't know if you could just speak to that quickly in terms of, how do you determine that schedule before I jump into it? Okay.
We have organized the areas for load shedding into areas that are critical. The Roseau catchment area is a area with a lot of essential services. Portsmouth to a lesser extent. And so when we look at managing the demand on the system, we take that into consideration. We have the hospitals, we have the fire station, the police station, etc. It's the business center of Dominica. And so persons may say, well, we hardly load shed in Roseau, and that is one of the reasons for that. Okay. I mean, we have to take that into consideration. The next thing we look at is the areas outside of Roseau that are, we call them domestic areas. Mm-hmm. Most of these people will be out in the daytime, and we try as much as possible to ensure that we do not create too much inconvenience, because at night they will be there. But we will have to shed take off some load during the nighttime. And so we look at the feeders, we look at the loading, the capacity of the areas that we want to remove, because we have to remove load from the system such that, as I said earlier, we do not remove too much, but at the same time we do not remove load that will not allow the units to meet that demand. So we have a schedule, a document with all of Dominica, all the feeders and the sections of the feeders with the loading, what capacity what demand that's there, and we use that as a guide to conduct the load shedding.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you again, gentlemen, for your participation in this discussion and this information session. I hope that the public has found it informative. And I really hope that these deliverables that we mentioned today can be achieved so that we can stabilize the network and return to normal operations. Thank you to everyone at Domlec for your efforts. I know both Dave and Daryl have thanked their team, but everyone is really playing their part in making this a reality. So you've been wanting open lines of communication, and I'm speaking here to the general public. So we hope that this broadcast is a demonstration that we are working on this. We're communicating with you. Of course, we'll continue to communicate on social media. Please like and follow us on Facebook and on Instagram, where we'll be posting updates in a very timely manner on the outages and other pertinent information. As we end, I will mention some of the places that will be facing service interruptions later this week before we get into the news. And thank you also to DBS Radio for bringing this program on live on Facebook. I will be sure to go there to review the comments and questions that have been posed, any concerns that have been raised, so we can respond further. And we will have more opportunities such as this to engage with the public. The time was a bit short as we planned for this one, but we'll definitely engage with the public and also with other media houses down the road. And thanks again to my guests and to everyone tuned in. So now I'm going to mention some of the areas that will be having outages this week, starting tomorrow. Wednesday. We've already mentioned the outages for Monday, and of course Tuesday has been on the radio. So Wednesday, the 17th of July, from 7:30 a.m. to 2 p.m. There will be service interruptions in Shawford, Bayak, Trafalgar, Lower Trafalgar, Wharton Waven, Biosh, Platmapier, Mero, Jimmet West, Jimmet Highway, Collyho Quarry, St. Joseph, and Salisbury. Wednesday, the 17th July, at 12:30 to 5:30 p.m., we will have service interruptions at the entrance of Portsmouth, Portsmouth Central, Georgetown, Longhouse, Glanvilla, and Balvin. And on that same day, Wednesday, the 17th, there will be service interruptions on Rose Street, Churchill Lane, Dupiny Lane, Grants Lane, Franklin Lane, Bowers Lane, Watties Lane, Rawls Lane, McIntyre Lane, Charles Avenue, Jolly Lane, Benjamin Lane, Winston Lane, Federation Drive, Shop Lane, Short Lane, Princess Lane, Solomon Lane, Greens Lane, Church Lane, Murphy's Lane, Jeffers Lane, Scotland Lane, Canal Lane, and sections of Tarish Pit, as well as Upper Kennedy Avenue, Upper River Street, Upper Hillsborough Street, Bath Road from Kennedy Avenue to River Street, and those will be outages for Wednesday. On Thursday, 18th July, from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m., the outages will be in, the service interruptions will be in Antrim, Cochrane, Springfield, Sylvania, Desport, Rivière-la-Croix, Anzicret, Corona, Poncasset, Penrice, Brandridge, Bells, Wet Area, Neba, Sultan, Layu Park, as well as Canefield, Massac, Check Hall, Les Point, Backstreet, Maho, Belfast Road, Belfast, Popo, Bonripo, Zabrico, and Campbell. On Thursday, the 18th, also from 2:30 p.m. to 8:30 p.m., Portsmouth Central, Zikak, Lagon, Sunshine Street, Cabritz, Bell Hall, Tatan, Guyette, Savanpai, Mona Louis, Clifton, Tukari, Kokoye, and Cottage. On Friday, the 19th, from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m., Richmond, Magini, Maho River, Sineku, Gullet River, Simsim, Salibert, Crayfish River, Sensi, Bataka, Concord, Atkinson, Antrizal, Pegua, North End, Loda, Grand Fort, Rivière Cyric, Monjon, Casgori, Laplane, Laronde, Botica, Delis, Point Mulat, Rosalie, Petit Soufriere, Tranto, Deepa, Mopo, Good Hope, Saint-Sauveur, Pocassé, Formel, Belfi, Casabrus Stretch, and Casabrus. Also on Friday, the 19th, from 2:30 p.m. to 8:30 p.m., the following areas will have service interruptions: Goodwill Road, Potter Street, Steber Street, Pivotal Street, Elliott Avenue, Riverside Apartments, St. John's Avenue, Lane Lane, Ship Street, Long Lane, Drury Lane, Love Lane, Riverbank, Newmarket Square, Lower River Street, Hanover Street, Kennedy Avenue, and Hillsborough Street from Old Street to Dame Eugenia Charles Boulevard. And on Saturday, this will be the last day for the week, 7:30 a.m. to 2 p.m., there will be service interruptions on Valley Road, Independence Street South, Virgin Lane, Bath Road between King George V Street and Victoria Street, Virgin Lane between Independence Street and Cross Street, Turkey Lane between Cross Street and Independence Street. And Saturday from 1:30 p.m. to 7:30 p.m., there will be service interruptions in Fokani, Louisville, Silver Lake, and in Bath Estate. So these will all be posted to our social media pages this evening, right after the interview, right after the program, and also will be shared with the other radio stations that they will announce in their community bulletin boards, and it will also be on Dominican News Online website. So we will be disseminating this information once again. If you've missed any area, you can definitely check our Facebook page to view. So thank you again, gentlemen, for being with me on the program, and thank you to everyone listening, and thank you to DBS for helping us to make this possible. You can tune in to me again Monday at 12 noon at our regular time on both DBS Radio and Kyrie FM, and we are over to the control for the news at 6.
Across the Caribbean, you listen. Across the world, you listen. And at home in the nature isle, you listen. You listen to DBS for unbiased coverage of breaking news, original programs, and so much music. You listen for the information that will change your lives and the humor to brighten your days. So here at DBS Radio, we deliver. We deliver timely news, information to live by, and the everyday interaction that we all so need. These are the things that make DBS Radio the better sounding radio in Dominica. Keep on listening.